back, everybody, to the Just One More Level podcast. I am your co-host, Christian.
And I'm your co-host, John.
And this week we played a little bit of an interesting little game called Autonauts.
Mm-hmm.
So, Autonauts is a game that I saw years ago, and I was very interested in. Well, I don't know if years is fair, but I saw some time ago, and I was interested in it whenever I first saw it. Never got around to playing it until now, and that's just because, as I've mentioned to John before, I have a list of games, and it's just a bunch of stuff that I have on Steam that I never got around to playing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just went through that list one day and picked all the stuff that I was like, you know what, that's something I've been wanting to play or I think would be good for a Just One More Level episode. So I threw it all on one big list. And this is the one that was randomly selected for us to do this month. And I'm quite happy that it was. Because as I just said, it's a game that I saw and I've been interested in playing. And if you've watched previous episodes, you should know this is right up my alley style of game. It's exactly the sort of thing I'm into, and I'll let John explain a little bit of what the game is, and I think you'll all understand.
Okay, so this game, as on face value, is kind of a Minecraft kind of game, in the sense that you're in a world and your job in the first part of it is to mine and to craft things and to collect resources and craft them up together so that you can automate your colonization process of this planet, which of course is where it starts straying from Minecraft. You can automate some things in Minecraft with redstone, but not to the level in this game. In this game, you actually build robots that you can code to perform certain tasks. And from what I've seen and played so far, you're not very restricted as to what you can and can't make your robots do. As long as you, the player character, can perform that function, you can teach your robot to mimic your movements and perform that same function, which kind of blew my mind a little bit because it opens the door for a lot of possibilities. I'm assuming as you progress through the game, you can do more and more complex stuff as your robots are automating tasks for you, so you can have a whole world of robots.
Right, just massive armies of robots, minions doing your bidding.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I find really interesting about the future prospects for this game is the possibilities for the future, because obviously we only played roughly an hour for me. I know you mentioned playing a little bit more than that.
Right.
But I was looking through like the tech tree and some of the different research that you can do and things like that, because this is that style of game where you research new things, you build, that lets you research even more new things, and then you build that and so on and so forth to progress. It is that style of game. So I was looking at kind of that research tree, and I noticed that there's a bunch of different upgrades that you can do for robots, and you can colonize the planet, and that's how you kind of do the research, is by getting a little colony going, and they give you something called WUV, W-U-V. They give you WUV points, and those WUV points is what allows you to do research. That, and of course resources that you collect. Sadly, I did not get quite that far. That is I mentioned to John before we started recording, I had a point in mind that I hoped to get to in the time that I had to play the game. That was the point. I hope to get to the point to where you start building up an actual colony and collecting WUV. Didn't quite get there, but like John, I'm really interested in what all you'll be able to do with the robots later on, because at the beginning of the game, you can do anything. Your robots can do anything that you can do, but you're limited to how long of a list of things you can give them. Right? They have a limited amount of memory. It's like 13 kilobytes or something weird like that. So I'm interested to just see, later on with upgrades and things, how complex can you program these robots to be, and what kind of advancements can they make? It's interesting.
Yeah, because if you're watching the video footage now, you're gonna start to see the look of this game, the environment that you're playing in, the style of the art of the game, and it's very, very cutesy. It reminds me a little bit of Animal Crossing, I think I want to say.
In a sense, kind of.
Just because of
the
how
bright colors and
bright and cutesy everything is. When I first started playing this, my mind immediately went to Minecraft, of course, because I'm such a huge Minecraft fan and there's similar aspects to it. But as I started playing this, I was like, oh, this is clever. This is kind of disguised as this Minecraft-y kind of experience. And I repeat again, at least in the early game, nobody kill me if the game turns into something totally different, because from what the sound of it, what you're talking about is it's going to turn into Sid Meier's Civ 6. you're gonna
I
start
mean,
building up colonies
I
and doing
don't
crazy
think.
things.
Now, granted, I like I said, I've watched some of this on YouTube, so I know a little bit farther into the game, but I've never watched endgame stuff or anything like that. But as far as I'm aware, it never turns into like colony on colony fights or anything like that. I
Gotcha.
don't believe there's any big bad that you're trying to fight or another group that you have to fend off or anything like that.
Right.
But your goal is to kind of colonize this planet with
Gotcha.
little humanoid um, creatures as well as yourself, obviously, in your robot army.
Right.
What the exact end goal is, I'm not really sure.
Mm-hmm.
But on the cutesy topic, I mean, obviously, I think that was kind of something. I think that was a goal for them, right, to make it very cutesy. I mean,
Yeah.
again, they called the research points WOV. Like,
Right. Right.
obviously, that was a very conscious choice they made.
Right.
Um, but the
And it,
real thing this has going for it that other survival sort of games or colonization games or whatever don't have is that whole robot programming aspect. That's kind of
yeah.
what makes this one unique, other than its art style, of course.
Right. Yeah. And I thought it was really cool because the tutorial walks you through building a basic robot and then teaching it how to carry out a function. And it teaches you 3 different things you can do. You can teach the first robot to go over and chop down a tree. You can teach the second robot to go over and dig a hole. And you can teach the third robot to go over and plant an acorn so that you can grow more trees. I think that's how that divvies out. So one of your robots is doing each of those things. But I was noticing after the tutorial, you get your achievement, your Steam achievement. You get your badge, and it brings you up into this page and shows you the different achievements you can get and the different tutorials you can complete and how to do that. And I closed out of that real quick because I said to myself, you know what? These logs are really going to start building up. I told these robots to mine out this huge area here of all these trees. So why don't I program a robot real quick to pick up the logs and carry them over and drop them down beside my workbench?
Exactly.
And then I'll go back to that part. So I built another robot and taught him how to do that. And before you know it, there was a stack of logs beside my workbench that I could use things with. And then I went back in and started the next phase of the tutorial. So I think it's amazing that me, who has never coded anything except for one puzzle in Shenzhen.io, not dot, Shenzhen.io, was teaching me the very basics of coding. And I don't know how applicable this is to real life coding in the slightest. I'm sure that it's a very simplified version, but just that idea, that rhythm of like teaching a machine to do basic things. This is step 1, 2, and 3, and now I want you to repeat that. Was really
and it
interesting.
is somewhat applicable. So the coding, quote unquote, in this game is all done through a visual coding language, a lot like I forget what it's called. I think Scratch or something like that. There is a language out there that's a lot that looks very similar to the sort of coding that you do in here.
Okay.
So I mean, it is somewhat applicable to the real world, and it teaches you the basics of things like loops and basic kind of logic and things like that. So it does teach you a little bit about programming.
Right.
And again, I'm very interested to see possibly in the future as you get more memory to program your robots with. I'm interested to see what other functions you're able to give them as well, and if you're able to teach them things that even you can't do directly as a player and things like that.
Right.
And one of my favorite things, just as a side note, that you can do is you can teach a robot to charge robots. So then you can have 2 robots covering an area, and they'll just keep themselves going forever, like in your forestry area, for instance.
I never thought of doing that. But 100%. That's because it can do anything the player can do.
Yep.
Right.
So all you got to do is wait for one of your robots to die. And that is the one kind of thing that annoys me just a little bit, is there doesn't seem to be a way, maybe it's something you unlock later, but there doesn't seem to be a way to teach your robot to do anything unless you can do it right then at that moment. Like it doesn't seem like it's possible just to select a list from a list of actions or to type anything in or anything like that.
Maybe
so if you want to teach them to do that, like I just said, to charge another robot, you actually do have to wait until one of your robot's batteries die, and then you can teach a robot to charge and go from there. So I mean, it's a very nitpicky thing, but it is the sort of thing that would be nice in the game.
Right. I was just about to say, I wonder if maybe you could do that in creative mode, because I know there's
Oh,
different
maybe
modes for this
yes.
game.
Yeah, they
Um,
do have different modes. I only played the adventure mode or whatever it's called, the main mode of the game. I didn't mess around with any of the other stuff. So
right. Yeah, I just thought about that. Yeah. I didn't know if maybe that's a bigger thing that you can do in creative mode, because I'm not really sure how similar it is to other creative modes. Like, do you have all of your resources available? Do you have all the robots unlocked? All that kind of stuff.
yeah, and I imagine that is kind of how it would work.
Mhm.
I imagine that's something I'll definitely have to
Right.
mess around with. But I
Yeah.
imagine they'll just give you all of the robots and all of the upgrades. Because I mean, what would you do if you had unlimited resources, right? Because that's kind of the whole flow of the game, at least from what we can tell. Is
Especially right at the beginning. I wouldn't really
right.
know what to do with all of that.
Right, right. And that's where like the tutorials and things come in place. And
Mhm.
for me personally, the tutorial was a little too handholdy, but
Mhm.
for a beginner, somebody who has no programming knowledge or didn't watch these videos on YouTube of this game before or anything like that, I think the tutorials are probably pretty decent.
Yeah.
And I
I
do like how you can go in and select, you can kind of pick and choose tutorials to get certain achievements. They have certain goals listed in a journal, and you can select one and it'll kind of tell you what you need to do. And if you go in back into the journal, you can get like an even finer breakdown of how to do it, kind of tutorial style. So I appreciate that it's there, but for me personally, it was a little bit much.
Right. Well, what I was going to say actually is I was very glad that the
Yeah.
tutorial was that way, because it was a little overwhelming for me at the beginning,
Hmm.
because it feels like a lot. It feels like a lot
Yeah.
of information
Yeah.
is thrown at you. It drops you into this world, and then I thought to myself, without even realizing there were robots involved, that this was going to be
Right.
some kind of Minecraft, Terraria, Stardew Valley
Survival
type
game. Yeah.
experience. Yeah, a
Yeah.
survival game. You collect resources, craft things, etc. So
Mhm.
I didn't even know robots were involved until the tutorial said,
Right.
"All right, make a workbench," and then it said, "Okay, now make your robot bench." And I was like,
Right.
"Wait, my
You can't
robot."
just spring that on me, okay? I need a
Right.
second here.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't even realize that was going to be a part of it. And my wife, who was watching this with me, she was looking at everything and she said, "Wow, this seems like a lot. It seems like kind of a lot to handle and a lot to memorize." And I was like, "No, I think it's kind of okay, because the tutorial really does hold your hand. It really goes step by step,
Hmm.
just to
Hmm.
make sure you know everything." So if you are more experienced, then maybe not the best option to do. I believe you can turn it off if
You
you
may
want
be able
to.
to. Yeah. I
Um,
didn't dig super deep into the options or anything, so it is
right,
possible you're able to. And it wasn't so bad that it made me want to stop playing the game or anything like that. It
right,
was just a
yeah.
little bit much for me personally. That's all.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is too, I something else that she said was, I think that I might want somebody else to teach me how to play this game instead of just
Right.
following the tutorial, because the tutorial feels like it feels like a lot. It just feels like it's constantly going, and there's a lot of information to process. So she said, maybe if I just sat down with a friend or with you and you just told me what to do kind of step by step, that would
Right.
be a little bit better. And I can definitely understand that. So if maybe you can turn the tutorial off and you're thinking about trying this game out, YouTube is a great
Right.
resource as always.
And that's what
YouTube
I
is
was gonna say.
yeah,
It seems like the perfect game to just watch somebody who has spent time in this game.
hmm
Find them on YouTube and watch a few videos. Maybe they even have a video explaining some of the finer details of what you can and can't do with your little bots and things like that. That would be a
right,
great way to learn this game, in my opinion.
yeah. Because that's what I always do. I mean, if I
Yeah,
get
honestly,
stuck
yeah.
on a spot, I half the time I don't even look up a walkthrough on Google. I look up a video on YouTube so
Yeah,
I
just
can
go
see
straight
what
to
that
YouTube,
person's
yeah.
doing. And then the same thing with Minecraft. I mean, I consume Minecraft content on YouTube pretty much daily. So I learn a lot of things I never knew about the game, even basic things I should definitely know by now on
Right.
YouTube, just by watching other people play. So
Right.
that's always a great way to do it. But I really did like this game. I was surprised because I thought it was just going to be kind of cutesy. When I first saw it, initially when you told me about it, I didn't know anything about it. So
Right.
I didn't know
That's
what
yeah,
to think.
I
But
didn't tell you anything about this one. I told you the name, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's it. I left the rest to be a surprise, and I'm glad
Mhm.
you ended up liking it because I wasn't sure either, to tell you the truth.
Right.
If you would end up liking it or not.
Yeah.
I knew it was my style of game, but with the programming aspects, I didn't know how you would feel about it. Now with the survival element and whatnot, I thought you would enjoy that because you do enjoy games like Stardew Valley and Minecraft and things where you're
Right.
where you're building a your own kind of area and collecting supplies and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed this one.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I liked the programming elements on this one far more than Shenzhen. I'll tell you that.
Well, yeah, this is much more beginner friendly
Yeah,
than Shenzhen is
this felt a lot
by
more like
far.
oh, what are they called? This felt like programming those Lego robots. They were super
Oh,
expensive
sure.
and like nobody had
Yeah.
them, but I would always read about them in the Lego magazine that I had about
Right.
the little Lego robots you could buy and you could program them. They came with little programmer kits and electronical.
I want to do
Wow.
that someday. Build a couple
Electronical.
robots.
Yeah, electronic components that you could put in this little Lego robot,
Yep.
and you could tell it to do different things. We're not really sure what you could do with them, but
Tiny little tangent. One of the things I've always wanted but never had the money for growing up. Now that I'm an
mhm,
adult, maybe I'll actually buy some. The
mhm.
Lego roller coaster kits.
Oh yeah,
Where it has like the actual thing that rides along the track and whatnot.
yeah,
That's just I love Rube Goldberg machines, and I remember like in Boy Scouts we did like a marble machine where the marble did like this whole big track and stuff like that.
right.
I absolutely adore that type of stuff. So yeah, just you talking about Lego robots made me think of that, and
Yeah.
I don't know why I haven't considered buying one since I've become an adult, but I definitely should because
Dude, I
that's
did
just
one of my classes in middle school
yeah.
was this workshop-y type of class. I won't get into it. Anyway, I built a K'NEX roller coaster.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, connects.
Yeah.
Lego like, not exactly Lego, but yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, along the same lines, I built a K'NEX
yeah.
roller coaster, and nobody wanted to help me until I got to the loop.
I would have
I
loved to help you from
I
beginning to
had
end.
one guy that was with me halfway. He was halfway with me. He was halfway dissecting a frog across the room. And then when it got to the loop, suddenly everyone was excited. But
Right,
the hill,
right,
the initial hill with the chain, is the most time-consuming part of it because you have
right.
to get that just right. You have to get the chain just right to pull it because after the chain, it runs on inertia.
Right. Of
And
course.
I was the hill was like the most massive part of it, and I was constructing this giant roller coaster, putting everything together, and everybody was like, "Wow, that's real cool. Looks like you're building with
Right.
blocks." And I'm like, "It's gonna be cool." And then yeah,
uh,
everyone was interested when we got to the loop, and that's where it started to fall apart.
I
Because
I've
everybody had their
always just
grubby
been
little
obsessed.
hands in there.
Never got to play with it, but I've always wanted to. I remember going to the store as a kid to your big box stores, Walmarts and things, and
Hmm.
just seeing the displays behind the plexiglass. They'd have the plexiglass
Right.
box with a little Connects
Hmm.
roller coaster in there, and I just man, and then the games too, right? Not Connects branded, but like Roller Coaster Tycoon and theme park
Oh yeah.
simulation
Yeah.
theaters and stuff. I love that stuff, man.
Yes.
I don't know why. I just like watching things go on a track. I don't I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
It's fine. I like trains, man.
You
I
like
like
trains?
trains. I
Okay.
like trains and I like roller coasters and like ant farms. I always thought those were the coolest things with all the tunnels and all the ants just walking through their farm and stuff
Oh,
like that.
okay.
It's just
Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
cool
Yeah.
stuff, cool stuff. But
I,
Autonauts though.
Autonauts. Yeah. So I I don't really have much more to say about Autonauts. Definitely go and check it out. It was a fun experience for me. I was surprised, and I would play just one more level. I probably shouldn't because I feel like it's one of those things that I'm gonna sink way too much time into.
Right,
Because I'm
right.
just gonna get sucked in and start making all kinds of robots, and everything's gonna go dark in my life. But
Right.
I would play just one more level of Autonauts.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
same for sure. I'm very interested to see where it goes. My only problem with it is the problem that I have with so many games is I just don't feel I have enough time to really get
Right.
deep into the game. But I'm
Hmm.
very interested in it, and I definitely want to. So maybe I will, maybe I won't. But regardless, I definitely would play just one more level of
Right.
Autonauts. It's a lot of fun, and as far as I'm aware, it's made by a relatively small team. Steam. I don't think it's sold like a crap ton of copies or anything like that. It's done fairly well as far as I'm aware, but it's not like a Stardew
Right.
Valley or anything like that. Nothing massive.
Gotcha.
But it's available over on Steam for like $20, and I'm pretty sure it goes on sale in Humble Bundles and things like that. So if you don't have the $20 for it, just watch out, and you can probably get it cheaper sooner or later. So
Right.
yeah.
All right.
But I think that's it for Autonauts then.
Yeah. So, Christian.
Yeah.
How are we gonna do this new
Right.
outro? We decided to kind of slim it down a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna try to slim down our outro a little bit, so it's real simple. We're just gonna let you know that if you want to see more of either myself or John, check out the description on YouTube or your podcast provider of choice to find all the links to our stuff there.
Yep, we got links to socials. We got links to our personal YouTube channels, Twitch stream handles, whatever you call those things. It's all down there in the description below. We don't want to waste your time going too far into it, talking about every individual place you can find us. So that's where you can find us. And in the meantime, thank you everybody so much for coming out and watching the stream, watching the videos, listening to the podcast. We really appreciate it because you don't have to, but you do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye. Hope to see you next week.
Yep. Bye-bye.